Next, in order to awaken potential customers, there are times when we, as sponsors, need to help with point redemption. But everyone, what's important is thank you. For those of us who have matched 300,000 points to 300,000 points, even losing 10,000 points feels like a waste, right? But even though it feels like a waste, the sponsor also needs to minimize their risk while matching their own commission in order to awaken the potential customers below them. No matter how much you support, you can't afford to take a loss, right? Maybe once or twice is okay, but can you keep taking losses? That's not right. Because that person also benefits while supporting those below. Even if you have exactly 300,000 to 300,000, by supporting those below, it can overflow. But if you just cut off the overflow and say, I got more than enough, is that okay or not? If you do that, everyone, a domino effect will occur. It will all collapse. Why? Because from above, even though it's 30 to 30 for me, from their perspective, they might be matching 700,000 to 700,000, or even 1.5 million to 1.5 million above that. But what happens if, while they're trying to make up for what's lacking themselves and supporting those below to really ignite things, you suddenly shut it off just because it overflowed? Even if you want to support the customers below and turn them into potential consumers, if someone insists on matching exactly 300,000 to 300,000, it gets blocked. You can't support them there. Then that's just that person's luck. They're throwing away their own fortune. So what happens then? On the other hand, there are also people who get really upset. They say, I set things up this way, so why did you put someone under me without my permission? You should have waited until the next day or something. There are people like that. But what about the sponsor? Inside? They might say, okay, on the outside, but inside there won't be a next time. Why? No, it's because they're all like that themselves. That's what makes them like gloomy frogs. They sponsor people under them without seeing the bigger picture, and then they get upset when things overflow. But you should think about it the other way around. If your sponsor wakes up a potential partner under you, you should be grateful. That's a good thing. They're helping you with something that would be hard to do alone. So, depending on how you think, you can either awaken those potential consumers or not. If your mindset is too small, you won't be able to grow. We need to broaden our minds and look beyond just the orders we've placed or the dates involved. How is it possible to change the date? Change what you were going to do to the end of the month. For example, this kind of method works. Everyone, if you don't organize this properly right from the start, if things aren't organized from the very first step, then later on the domino effect will get much worse for you. Then later, even if you want to sponsor, you'll be blocked and won't be able to do it. So the first stage is 300,000 on the left and 300,000 on the right, right? Then let's say I have something to order today, huh? The left side already has 300,000, but the right side only has 250,000 points. So whether I do it the day before, today, or tomorrow, that's up to me. It's my choice. You can do it freely. That's what I'm saying. But let's say I matched 30 today. Now, the reason I tell you to think bigger is because by matching 30, my sponsor above, it becomes 600,000, right? If it's a direct line, then it's only 600,000. That means it hasn't reached 700,000. But for example, let's say this sponsor also, oh, here, it has reached 700,000 on the right side. In this case, do you have to match it? Do you have to go over? It might be different for everyone, but in my case, since you have to support people as you help them grow anyway, I do match it in situations like this while providing support. Why? Because the synergy will be even greater. So if I'm going to help this person grow and make both sides stronger, it's essentially helping them build their own auto system, right? In that case, I would provide support underneath them. Or if this person's quota is 300,000, let's say they need to fill 300,000 on both sides, then I would place orders using this person's ID. For example, let's say their quota is already full. There could even be someone who already has 2.4 million. So what do you do when there's no need to fill it up? Since you need to quickly grow the people below, you provide support underneath. And from this person's perspective, the 300,000 on both sides that they matched could become 400,000 on one side and 300,000 on the other. But what happens if I change the date for the 50,000 points I matched? That sponsor's effort would go to waste too. You really need to handle these things well. If things like this don't line up, even if there's an overflow, from the sponsor's perspective, they might still try to help and support to grow that person. That's why you need to expand your capacity. Even if there's an overflow, you might think, ah, the sponsor helped me like this, and they also benefited while supporting me. As you realize, wow, they're helping me grow more and more, you start to think, I should become this person's left arm or right arm. Doesn't that make you feel good? The sponsor could actually help even more, but if you start fighting over this, what happens to the sponsor? It gets tiring, you know. Right now, I'm just talking about one or two people based on my own experience, but later, as more people get involved, the sponsor might end up supporting someone else. That means you're basically cutting off your own opportunity. That's why, from the beginning, I taught that having abundance is a good thing. At first, it might be a 60-30-30 split, but eventually, you need to have more than enough. You need to have abundance for it to keep running automatically. If you just match it exactly, it can only be manual. So, is that system income for us? No, it's not. That's why you need to teach this from the very beginning. Having abundance is a good thing. So, if this alignment isn't right, since this is all about teamwork, it could get a bit difficult. You understand, right? Even if those two levels above you want to help more, if things get out of sync like this, later on, for those of you who have matched 300,000 and 300,000, it might just be 10,000, 20,000, or at most 50,000 points. But as you move up, almost 300,000 points can disappear in a single day. So, what happens then? If just one of those collapses and it starts a domino effect, that's when things really go crazy. That's why the foundation needs to be deep. You understand, right?